Acharya ji, we've talked about friends and we have the freedom to choose our friends. And elaborating on that thought, we don't have freedom to choose our family members, our relatives. And the way we are brought up, the way we are socialized, there's an implicit trust that we take for granted, that इन पे तो हम विश्वास कर ही सकते हैं और उसको हम कभी भी क्वेश्चन नहीं करते और उसी में सालों साल निकल जाते हैं. लेकिन जब आसपास का माहौल ऐसा होता है, जब चुनौतियां आती हैं, प्रॉब्लम्स आती हैं, तब उन रिलेशनशिप्स का एक्चुअल जो एक उनको आजमाया जाता है. हमारी भी आजमाइश होती है और बाकियों की भी होती है और उसमें कई बार बहुत सारा बिट्रेयल उनको भी हो सकता है, हमें भी हो सकता है. ठीक है, उनकी एक्सपेक्टेशंस कुछ रही होंगी जो हम नहीं पूरी कर पाते और हमारी कुछ ऐसी एक्सपेक्टेशंस हैं जो वो नहीं पूरी कर पाते. वो सब मैं समझती हूँ. आई हैव गॉन थ्रू दिस पेन ऑल्सो पोस्ट कोविड. लॉट ऑफ इमोशंस, लॉट ऑफ पेन, लॉट ऑफ ट्रॉमा. I have risen above it now. I'm functioning well. In fact, I'm flourishing. But what keeps coming back to me is the karmic account. First, is that a concept? Do you believe in that? मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि इतना सारा karmic account build up हो गया है इतने सालों का. 23 years एक particular तरीके से रहे, कभी सोचा नहीं नेगेटिव, कुछ हुआ भी नहीं, ना किया, ना उन्होंने किया, ना हमने किया. तो अब वो मुझे जो बॉदर करता है कि क्या इतना कार्मिक अकाउंट है और क्या मैं कभी लिबरेट हो पाऊंगी इससे. मुझे उनसे कोई बदले की भावना नहीं है, कुछ नहीं है ऐसा, मुझे उनका नहीं पता. बट हाउ डू आई ट्राई टू लिबरेट माई सेल्फ फ्रॉम दैट? इज देयर अ पॉसिबिलिटी?
No, but what is a karmic account? What is a karmic account?
Yeah, that's first of all, उस पे भी मुझे क्लैरिटी उतनी नहीं है कि एग्जैक्टली कार्मिक अकाउंट ये कि कितना सारा चीज़ें हमारी कॉमन इंटैंगल्ड हैं, अभी भी हैं. मेमोरीज, देयर आर सो मेनी थिंग्स विच आर इंटैंगल्ड, सो मेनी थिंग्स विच आर.
All that is mind stuff.
Yeah.
Simply mind stuff. There is no account anywhere. It's just mind stuff. Simple. Nothing.
तो ऐसा वो नहीं है. तो then how do we free our mind from that and move on and then again trust people?
The mind is dictated by the ego, I. If there is something in the mind, it is only because the ego thinks that it is profitable to keep it in the mind. The mind is the house. The ego is the owner of that house. The mind is the house of which the ego is the owner. So if you find stuff in that house, it is because somebody thinks that it is of use to keep that stuff there. Otherwise, why would the stuff remain there? So if there are memories, entanglements and such things, then please observe the benefits you think you are deriving from them. There has to be a certain benefit, a pleasure that you are taking from them. Otherwise, they cannot stay there. I'll ask you a question.
More of a pain rather than a pain.
Even in that pain, there is security for identity. Think of it. Do you remember everything over the last 23 years? None of us would probably even remember what we had for breakfast day before yesterday. Do you remember that? We don't remember that. So the mind selectively stores stuff, and it very precisely follows the dictates of the ego. It remembers only that which it considers important from the point of view of pleasure or identity. Otherwise, you won't remember it. There is an auto-deletion process inside. Things get auto-deleted. You must be wondering why there is stuff that did not get auto-deleted. It does not get deleted because we derive pleasure from it. We go back to it and we want to virtually repeat the experience to again have the experience that we once had. If that experience gave you pleasure, you want to revisit it, don't you? In fact, you want to model your future experiences on the past experience. So to have a future, in some sense, remembering the past becomes important. Get it? Once you have your source of joy firmly within you in the present, there will be no need to time and again go back to the past. In that sense, it is the insufficiency of the present that shows up in a constant, almost ritualistic hankering for the past. If the present is healthy, well-nourished, and demanding, full of the right kind of challenges, how will you have an opportunity to reminisce, be nostalgic, and all those things? And we all know that, right? When life is full of the right kind of activity or occupation, then there is no space for the past or even the future. And if there is a certain hollowness or vacuum in the present, then the mind fills it up by streaming in the past and by projecting a future. So the solution lies in living, forcing yourself, almost forcing yourself to live a fulfilling life. And then those things will become too small to be remembered. Right? Yes.
So you mentioned for the first answer, right in the beginning of the session, you said that we are living hollow lives. Then as a part of the answer to end the question, you mentioned that we need to have friends which take us from the lower pleasures to the higher pleasures. And just now you mentioned that we need to live a fulfilling life. And there's nothing like a karmic balance. So I would like you to elaborate on what is the purpose of life and what actually karma stands for.
See, right since the moment of our birth, we are crying. So that's the purpose of life, to stop crying. And it's just that we become nuanced and sophisticated enough to not to shed tears. And that would be quite upsetting also, and irritating to be always seen wiping one's face. But internally, there is always a certain gloom that shows up in the various mental states of of hope, of ambition, fear, even happiness and pleasure, attraction, attachment. Why is the mind so vulnerable to these things? It is because we are unfulfilled since birth. There is the one we are within, right? The I that keeps saying, hello, me, is constantly saying, I'm still not complete, something is missing. Don't you see, we all remain desirous our entire lives? And the fulfillment of any particular desire never succeeds in fulfilling us. A particular desire might get fulfilled. That does happen sometimes. But still we never get fulfilled. So that points at the purpose of life. To seek what that lack of fulfillment is about. To understand this self, internal self that is always clamoring, always complaining, never complete. What is that thing within? And that understanding makes it then easy to be liberated of suffering. So mukti, that's the purpose of life. And it's easy if we can just see where all our desires come from. The game of desires in itself is sufficient to point at the missing thing. But we rush behind our desires, or we sometimes suppress our desires, but rarely do we understand our desires. If we can understand the process within by just looking at it, our daily actions, our relationships, thoughts, feelings, instincts, if we can look at them, that proves to be very liberating. Yes.